Good day, research panelists. We are beyond delighted to virtually stand here in front of you as we discuss our research study entitled Development and Usability of Non-Tech or Printed Gamified Module in Learning Grade 7 ICT. The proponents of this study are Ms. Bea Diazes, Ms. Sheena Rica Draghi, Ms. Judith Franco, Ms. Geraldine Nicosia, Mr. Brett Johnson-Billio, and Mr. Giuseppe Lipardo.
The COVID-19 pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 is one of the emerging global public health emergencies. The education sector has been one of the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The most vulnerable to safety and security are schools, so school personnel, students, parents, and other stakeholders' health is at risk. So schools were temporarily closed to stop the virus from spreading and reducing infections. The pandemic has created numerous opportunities for novel educational practices focused on maximizing distance learning in the context of ongoing educational episodes. The use of gamification in online classroom is an emerging trend in e-learning according to Salem, Nori, and Usability. Gamification is the process of incorporating typical game elements into non-game contexts in order to motivate people to complete specific tasks. It also refers to the process of making exercises more game-like or the wonder of game-making participation, according to Crivisto and Hamari 2019. Educators like this method because it improves the learning experience despite the limited number of face-to-face activities that were once used to engage students. Building a narrative around for each lesson for each student to work on, awarding points for successfully performed acts, special badges and awards for good performances, and using leaderboards to promote healthy competitions among students are all examples of gamification in education. So, gamification, when properly designed and implemented, gamification can be used as motivating didactic tool that improves the teaching and learning process according to Acosta Medina, Torres Barreto, and Alvarez Melgarejo. And according to Chapman and Rich, the educational gamification environment improves students' perceived motivation. They found that more inspiring than a traditional course design. In another study of Chai, Kufenas, and Lu, gamification was found to contribute to student-centered learning and enable the use of a flipped classroom in a course design. Gamification was also found to improve students' math achievement and cognitive engagement when compared to traditional learning, while several studies show that gamification improves student motivation and engagement through online learning. While online learning is already difficult to implement in developing countries such as the Philippines, our country, because not every teacher and student has access to or it is skilled in using educational technology. Gamification is further complicated by most household unstable network connections, which have a significant impact on the online learning environment. However, because it is a relatively unexplored area of research, studies integrating gamification to printed module in distant learning have a promising future, according to Zainuddin and Kiumala. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a study by Lanuza, Oraj, Baryon, and Eusebio Jr. attempted to create a gamified module that could cater to students with unstable internet connectivity and use the following gamification elements to motivate students, such as the points, badges, and transactions. Points, badges, leaderboards, and levels were four of the most effective gamification elements according to Salem, Nori, and Osdamli. Only two of these gamification elements were present in the gamified module developed by Lanuza, Oraj, Baryon, and Eusebio Jr. A learning module is a collection of activities that have been scientifically proven to produce positive learning outcomes. The learning module facilitates real-world learning by allowing learners to follow simple procedures according to Norhayati and Saguro's research. According to Norhayati and Saguro's research, infrastructure has a positive and significant impact on learning outcomes. Due to a lack of practical skills, students are expected to share tools. This could make students less enthusiastic about their practical work. Some students may become bored, lose concentration, and prefer to watch rather than do or perform non-work related activities. The advantages of learning content should influence students' desire to learn. The desire to get a good grade should be matched by a desire to understand the material. To motivate students to learn, teachers should communicate the benefits of studying content early on and make it more appealing to them, according to Mazaya. So the objectives of our research is number 1, to create a gamified grade 7 ICT module that possesses the following game elements such as points, badges, leaderboards, and story. And number 2 is to determine the usability of the proposed gamified module as perceived by the students in terms of content, format, gamification features, interactivity, and learning and support. Sa significance of our study, since we, the researchers, are future educators, we are well versed in information technology. We came up with the idea of creating a gamified printed module for students in grade 7. We, the researchers, developed the gamified module based on the K-12 curriculum as well as the competencies. This study provides baseline data for researchers who want to learn more about the use of gamification in education, as well as knowledge and innovative ideas based on what they learn. This research will aid teachers in developing learning materials for their students to comprehend and study practical ICT activities. Students would be motivated to complete the activities on the module because it has gamified features.
Here's the theoretical framework of our study. The gamified module has content, format, gamified features, interactivity, learning, and support. We will see if these indicators affect the students' learning motivation. The study is anchored to constructivism theory. According to the constructivist view, learners create knowledge because of their interactions with the environment, building on existing knowledge and dependent upon the relevance of the content or instructional activity in their own lives. Constructivism theory is one of the essential theories used in education settings since it deals with any change or modification in the educational environment. The most significant change that constructivism theory adapts is adapting to the systemic changes in education. This study is also anchored in the theory of multiple intelligences, which states that humans learn through a variety of methods based on their most vital modes of intelligence. Educators utilize this theory in designing curricula today to capture the students' interest by addressing a wide variety of learning strengths. Therefore, a gamified module that can accommodate the widest variety of learning styles would provide a valuable tool to stimulate the learner's minds better than a regular module. In addition, the level of mastery by each student must also be addressed in a practical module. Just as students learn via different learning modes, students also learn at different paces depending on a variety of factors, such as intrinsic or extrinsic motivation, as suggested by Bandura, and engagement. The idea that people can be motivated by different intrinsic and extrinsic factors is crucial in how the gamified module or rewards users. Bandora postulated that people could change thinking and behavior patterns if motivated. The source of the motivation can come from within or outside the person. Extrinsic motivation depicts external activities such as a reward, compulsion, and punishment. Individuals are extrinsically motivated if they receive any rewards or under any pressure or compulsion. According to Bandora, the motivation can be cultivated extrinsically at the initial stage and transform it as intrinsic motivation in the learning process as it goes deep. This kind of motivation provides a high level of willpower and engagement. The study is also sub-anchored to self-regulated learning theory. Self-regulated learning suggests that students engage in their own learning processes on metacognitive, behavioral, and motivational levels. Self-regulated learning aims to get students to focus on self-comparisons instead of comparing themselves to the action of their peers in any learning situation. Self-regulation of learning is a built-in learning process whereby students develop goals and skills sets, apply those skills to a given learning situation, internalize their behaviors, and act upon those behaviors to increase positive behaviors and reduce their tendencies for negative behaviors. Self-regulated learning is a multidimensional process in which there is a set of 3 recurring phases in a general time-ordered sequence materializes with the attainment of self-regulation skills. The phases that guide self-regulated learning, forethought, performance, control, and self-reflections are essential in the developmental processes. Phase 1 refers to forethought or planning beforehand. Within the stage, students internalize a given problem or desired outcome, create short and long-term goals of the learning experience, and create mental maps that help reduce the chances of the unknown manifesting. It is beneficial for students to know when to start, where, and start. Anxiety manifests itself in learning when a student does not know when or how to begin. The forethought phase of self-regulated learning is crucial to a student's ability to carry out the desired task or conclude a given problem. Students develop a positive outlook towards their academic performance and have some disregard towards extrinsic rewards when the forethought phase is appropriately executed. Phase 2 refers to performance control within the learner. 3 strategies to control their performance emerge within the performance phase. The first highlights how students focus their attention. Students must consider distractions in their learning environments, whether from another student or vague instruction. The second strategy is based on how students instruct themselves when performing their developed skills. Self-instruction affects their ability to implement their strategies and other learning schemes successfully. Self-monitoring is the third strategy. A self-monitoring updates the learner about their progression in concluding a problem or performing a set of tasks. Phase 3 refers to self-reflection. Students reflect and evaluate their reactions to performance goals within self-reflection phase compared to the outcomes. Students assess their achievements or failures, adjust their self-efficacy, make informal attributions, and adapt to potential learning during the self-reflection phase. Lastly, the study is anchored to ARC's model of motivation. Fundamentally, humans' motivation is associated with behavior and emotion. It is a superior strength to deal with the learning process and succeed. Students can be motivated directly using attractive, satisfying, and stimulating learning material. ERCS model is a systematic way to determine the deal with learning motivation, the attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. Model of motivation design is used to understand the impact of technology on student motivation towards learning by Copeland, Bakar, and Zolgefli in 2020. Based on the ARCS model, the design of the technology must attract student attention. It must be relevant to the students. The student must be confident with the technology, and the student must feel satisfied after using the technology. According to the ARCS model, students can be motivated directly by grabbing the student's attention with attractive and stimulating mediums or learning material. It is vital to sustain and arouse the student's attention and curiosity in the learning process.
In a review of related literature, we have reviewed about information communication technology. According to Lawrence and Tarr, ICT is becoming increasingly significant in our daily lives, educational systems, and bodies of knowledge. In an increasingly globalized digital world, the adaptation and integration of ICT into teaching and learning environment enable teachers and students to collaborate more effectively. Thus, ICT should possess the potential to affect how students are taught and learn, resulting in a more effective teaching and learning process. Another study conducted by Inkizar, Mulyate, Rahman, and Al-Furqan stated that the integration of ICT into the teaching and learning environment attempts to utilize ICT devices to supplement teachers' instructional procedures, providing additional learning opportunities for students throughout the session. According to Oros, Conscuela, Toledo, and Sanchez, that a country's progress can only be meaningful if it is led by science and technology. In a world increasingly dominated by digital media, ICT in education is vital. Nowadays, students who do not master ICT are regarded illiterate and underachieving. We have also reviewed about gamification. According to Medina et al., gamification refers to the incorporating typical game elements in contexts that are not games, intending to motivate the individual to perform certain tasks. Another study conducted by Salim, Nori, and Ozdamli stated that the primary goals of gamification are to engage students, identify objects that motivate learning, improve specific skills, and promote change in attitudes towards learning. For this reason, numerous academics, including the study of Davis, Sridharan, Kuepko, Singh, and Bueko in 2018, Chong, Chin, and Kwe in 2019, and Anzo, Bonk, and Lin in 2020. We also reviewed the gamification benefits. Gamification's ability to increase student engagement and motivation has been a boon during new normal education at the height of COVID-19 pandemic. According to Acosta, Medina, Torres Barreto, and Alvarez Melgarejo, when gamification is designed and used correctly, it could be used as a motivational didactic tool to improve teaching and learning process. Many studies regarding this topic support the findings that gamification increases student motivation and engagement during online learning courses. However, some studies show that the positive and negative effects of gamification may vary across different personality traits. According to Salim, Nori, and Ozdamli, the most impactful elements are badges, points, leaderboards, and levels. We have also reviewed the gamification platforms. The study conducted by Salim, Nori, and Ozdamli stated that the Socrative, Edmodo, Kahoot, Quizzes, Mentimeter, Padlet, Flowbaro, Google Forms, and Edpuzzle are the most common platforms used by the teachers and students. And out of all these platforms, students preferred Kahoot, Quizzes, Mentimeter, while Canvas, Quiz, Slido, and Edpuzzle were not as favored. And lastly, we reviewed the challenges of gamification. According to Muhammad, Sally, Hamid, Sue, and Mood, despite all these benefits, gamification in the online learning environment also faces some challenges, including poor infrastructure and internet service. Although gamification concepts in a non-tech are inadequately investigated, one study by Lanuza, Orajay, Varian, and Usability developed a non-tech gamified module design and measured student acceptance and assessment of said module in terms of content, format, and gamified feature. Another study conducted by Aristana and Arjana used Marsquizgi gamification framework to create a gamification design for high school students with unstable internet connection.
This study utilized instructional development, also known as developmental research, the systematic study of designing, developing, and evaluating instructional programs, processes, and products that must meet the criteria of internal consistency and effectiveness. There were a total of 40 participants in this study. The respondents of the study were the grade 7 students officially enrolled in the Mahaplag National High School Upper. The sampling technique used was a combination of purposive and convenient sampling. The study was conducted at Mahaplag National High School Upper in Barangay Upper, Mahaplag, Leyte. As high mountains surround this site, the internet connection in the area varies from low to average, with fast speeds only available around midnight. The instruments utilized in the study were the Gamified module for the first lesson of the fourth quarter school year 2021 to 2022, which started April 4 and ended April 8. The modules then went through the scrutiny of the content and technical editors noted by the 3 content experts in ICT before the school had approved them for distribution. The second instrument was a survey questionnaire as the technique for collecting and gathering data about the usability of the Gamified module and was given to students and lecturers. This was adopted in 2021 by Lanuza, Orajay, Baryon, and Eusebio Jr. The outcome of the survey instrument was tabulated, analyzed, and interpreted very well. The researchers sent a request letter to the principal of Mahaplag National High School Upper, the respective teachers, and the randomly selected students, asking for permission to conduct the study. After the approval of the said request, the researchers administered the instrument. Data was collected through adopted questionnaires. A questionnaire on this development research was obtained from students who evaluated the learning instrument developed. For the Gamified module's usability, data will be obtained from a questionnaire filled out by students after using the Gamified modules. The statistical treatments used were frequency count, percent formula, weighted mean, and statistical package for social sciences software at a 5% level of significance. Then, the data will be analyzed by interpreting the average qualitative value of each aspect and all aspects by using these criteria. The collected data will be analyzed to determine judgments or opinions about the application's usability. Data will be obtained from students in the form of a Gamified module's usability as follows: content, format, gamification features, interactivity, and learning support. Table 1 shows the formulas used on how to convert the data gathered per indicator used in the Gamified module into its corresponding category, whether it is to be interpreted as very high, high, neutral, low, or very low in response to the computed mean per indicator.
Results and discussion. After gathering the data, the variables have been considered are the indicators in the survey questionnaire: content, format, gamified features, interactivity, and learning and support. The summary findings is derived after students answered the survey form. So here are the table for the results. Overall, the usability of the developed gamified module has a total of 4.33, which is very high. This shows promise in the future studies regarding the use of gamification in distant learning. The highest overall mean is the gamified feature indicator, which yields a 4.47 mean. This stipulates that the gamified features integrated in the module gains high interest on the students. The content of the module is up to date and with reliable references, got the lowest mean of 4.13, indicating that the gamified module should contain more up-to-date references. The usability level of the developed module in terms of format has a grand mean of 4.46, which was interpreted as very high, meaning that the students who use the module find it to be excellently formatted. All of the indicators of great formatting were scored very high in the questionnaire, but two of the strongest points of the module are the instructional module is generally formatted in a convenient manner considering the paper size used, which is 4.63, and the symbols used in this instructional module are well defined, which yields a mean of 4.63. The usability level of the developed module in terms of gamified feature has a grand mean of 4.7, which was interpreted as very high. This stipulates that the features integrated was effective on the implementation in the gamified module. The gamified module was found very helpful in learning the course, improving student performance in the course, and while the badge design and layout allowed them to be more interested in what is to be completed next, it was still the weakest part of the gamified features, which only yields for 4.63, indicating a need to improve badge design to increase student interest. The usability level of the developed module in terms of interactivity has a grand mean of 4.12, which was interpreted as high. However, it is still significant as it provides facilities in making the process more engaging and motivating. However, it should be stated that there should be a balance between eye-catching gamification design so as to not distract the student from learning critical content as indicated by a relatively low score of the design or layout of a gamified module assist in noticing and learning critical content, rather than merely entertaining or possibly distracting learners, which was the lowest mean out of all the indicators. The usability level of the developed module in terms of interactivity has a grand mean of 4.33, which was interpreted as very high. It means that the learning and support aspect of the module was highly acceptable as it provides opportunities for self-assessment for the learners to further understand the topics in the module. Furthermore, it provides an opportunity to have a group discussion with other learners. The highest overall mean is the gamified features indicator, which yields a 4.47 mean. This stipulates that the gamified features integrated on the module gains high interest on the students compared to answering their mundane weekly modules as it comprises a lot of features, leaderboards, badges, and different level of activities incorporated on the module helps the student to enjoy their learning experience on answering the module. The lowest mean is 4.12, which belongs to the interactivity indicator, although the module comprises a lot of features that could not contribute to its overall interactivity. It only yielded a high interpretation as some students some part of the design to be too distracting.
The findings of this study may have good implication for students, parents, teachers, and other researchers pertaining to the teaching and learning the information communication technology. The findings are relevant to the aim of this study as it emphasizes that the developed gamified module possessed the game elements including points, badges, leaderboards, and story, was effective to motivate students to complete the activities in the module. The study also finds out that the usability of the developed module, assessed with the students in terms of its gamification features, is highest among the 5 indicators including content, format, interactivity, learning, and support. Since modular method was used to address the difficulties of education and connectivity issues during the pandemic, this research seeks to innovate the existing module areas in format, content, interactivity, learning, and support by adding gamification features. This strategy is still in its infancy stage but has showed great promise in future application based on questionnaire data. Certain features of the Gamified module showed flaws. The design and layout of badges, design or layout of Gamified module, assist in noticing and learning critical content rather than merely entertaining or possibly distracting learners, and access to a variety of up-to-date references. Here are some of our recommendations for future studies. Number 1. Incentivized badges. The current study on gamified modules, including the format and content, suggests that in the context of the new normal classroom, where full face-to-face classes are still a long way off in Philippine education, particularly in densely populated areas, incentivized badges may be an important antecedent for engaging gamification and sustaining learner motivation to learn even in a remote setting. Number 2. Can certain contexts affect gamification outcomes? Implementing such gamified features while modifying the nature of the underlying service may provide insight into how context affects gamification outcomes. Next, gamification modules in other disciplines like math, science, and etc. Next recommendation, the gamified module is studied over a long period over multiple modules. Then, last but not least, this study was limited by sample size, generalizability of results, and research instrument validation. Because of the limited sample size, it is impossible to say how far the findings can be generalized.
Thank you, our dear research panelists, for listening to our virtual presentation entitled Development and Usability of Non-Tech or Printed Gamified Module in Learning Grade 7 ICT. And the room is now open for questions, suggestions, and recommendations. And that would be all. Thank you.